Okay, looks like there's a critical mass. Perhaps Ms. Smith is on the way. So let's go ahead and get started. So the time is now 12 noon exactly, and I will call the meeting of the District of Columbia Board of Ethics and Government Accountability to order. This is our May 2022 meeting. I'm Norma Hutcheson and BEGA, Chairperson. Due to COVID-19, this meeting is being held virtually via WebEx. Joining me today for this meeting are board members Charles Nottingham, Darrin Sobin, Melissa Tucker, and let me double check. I don't see Ms. Smith yet, but perhaps she'll join us as soon as she can. But the four of us constitute a quorum for this meeting. So since it was first posted, the meeting agenda has not been changed in any way, but may we have a few minutes please take a few minutes to review the agenda, and then we can have a motion to adopt the agenda.
I can move to adopt the agenda.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thanks. It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the agenda for today's meeting. Okay, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposition? Hearing none, the board has adopted the agenda for today's meeting. We also have before us the minutes from our April 7th, 2022 meeting that are in draft form. And will a member please make a motion to consider approval of those minutes?
I'll offer the motion that we approve the minutes for today's meeting.
Okay, these would be the minutes from April 7th.
Oh, yes, I stand corrected. I offer the motion that we approve the minutes from our April meeting.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt the minutes from the April 7th, 2022 meeting. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? Okay, hearing no opposition, we will adopt those minutes from April 7th, 2022. The next item on the agenda is a report from the Director of Open Government. We'll hear from Director Niquelle Allen, who will provide a report on that office, and she is also appearing via WebEx. Director Allen, please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Hutcheson and members of the board. I am Niquelle Allen, Director of Open Government. I am pleased to present this report on the activities of the Office of Open Government. Since the last board meeting, the Office of Open Government has continued to fulfill its mission of ensuring that all persons receive full and complete information regarding the affairs of the district government and the actions of those who represent them. I'll start by reporting on the Open Meetings Act and Freedom of Information Act advice rendered by the office. First, advisory opinions. On April 20th, 2022, I issued an advisory opinion number OOG-2021-0008M, dismissing as moot under the Office of Open Government's regulations an OMA complaint against the DC Education Research Collaboratives Advisory Committee, which I refer to as committee. The prospective complaint alleged that the committee planned to meet, one, without notice to the public, including the date, time, place, and agenda, and two, in a closed meeting without following the Open Meetings Act procedure. The committee admitted on the record during its first two meetings that it was subject to the OMA and followed the statute in the conduct of its meetings by providing proper notice to the public. The committee did not enter into a closed session. The committee's admission and conduct resolved the issue. Therefore, I found it unnecessary to opine on the issue of whether the committee meets the legal definition of a public body subject to the Open Meetings Act because the committee voluntarily complied with this statute. A copy of the advisory opinion is in Dropbox for your review. The next item is the informal Open Meetings Act and Freedom of Information Act advice rendered by the office. Since the last board meeting, OOG has responded informally via email, telephone, or other means to requests for assistance as follows. OOG responded to 5 requests for Open Meetings Act advice and 5 requests from Freedom of Information Act advice. OOG responded to 38 requests for technical assistance with our website, open-dc.gov. The next matters are training and outreach conducted by the office. Privacy Act webinar. On April 14th, 2022, Chief Counsel Barton attended the State Privacy Laws is the Uniform Personal Data Protection Act, the Path Forward webinar. The webinar discussed the Uniform Personal Data Protection Act, UPDPA, as a model law for states considering privacy laws that attempt to balance consumer privacy concerns with the valuable commercial uses of data. The webinar was sponsored by the George Mason University Antonin Scalia School of Law. And the next item, the District of Columbia Health Benefit Exchange Executive Board Meetings, Yearly Open Meetings Act Training. On April 20th, 2022, Attorney DeBerry conducted a remote Open Meetings Act training for the Health Benefit Exchanges Executive Board. Senior Counsel Tran also presented a ethics training for this organization on behalf of the Office of Government Ethics. The trainings were both well received. Issuance of the Office of Open Government newsletter. On April 20th, 2022, the Open Government newsletter, the Open Govis, was distributed to the District of Columbia FOIA officers and public body administrative points of contact. Highlights in this edition include legislative updates on the emergency and temporary amendments that impact the processing of FOIA requests and the conduct of open meetings and summaries of open OMA and FOIA advisory opinions issued by the office. A copy of the newsletter is in the Dropbox for your review. The last item in this section is the Open Government Advisory Group meeting. On April 27th, I attended the Open Government Advisory Group meeting with Attorney DeBerry. We discussed FOIA and OMA training. We also discussed OOG working with the Mayor's Office of Legal Counsel to host more FOIA training and webinars and to create a FOIA training manual. And this meeting was also held remotely due to COVID-19. The next items are the litigation and legislative updates. Litigation, Du Bois FOIA lawsuit regarding the Board of Dentistry resumes, experts, complaints, and decisions, civil case number 19-1239. The Court of Appeals held oral argument on November 30th, 2021, and the disposition in this case is pending. The next case is Tax Analyst and Davis FOIA lawsuit regarding the other statute, Exemption 6, and its applicability to DC Official Code Section 47-4406, private letter tax rulings. This case was argued on March 8th, 2022, and the disposition is pending. The TPM lawsuit regarding preliminary budget requests. This case remains pending in the DC Court of Appeals. Washington Post FOIA lawsuit regarding records arising out of the Capitol insurrection, including the mayor's WhatsApp discovery, is still ongoing in this case. The court will address motions for summary judgment after the close of discovery. The district moved for leave to file its answer out of time, to which the Post did not object. On April 14th, 2022, the district filed its answer and affirmative defenses, but the court stated orally that it will address dispositive motions after discovery, and the case is currently on the mediation track, which is set for August 18th, 2022. The Phillips Section 1983 lawsuit alleging a Metropolitan Police Department watch list. In this case, the district filed its reply in response to Ms. Phillips' opposition to the district's motion to dismiss on April 6, 2022, repeating that Ms. Phillips' pleadings fails to state a claim under the Free Speech Clause and alleged that any violation of her constitutional right was caused by a municipal policy or practice. On April 19, 2022, the district court held a hearing on the district's motion to dismiss, and disposition is pending. The district's reply and docket sheet are uploaded to the Dropbox. The OOG staff will continue to monitor these cases. The next item is legislation. First is the fiscal year 2023 budget. On April 20th, 2022, the Council's Committee on Human Services met to mark up its fiscal year 2023 budget report and recommendations. Concerning BEGA's May 2023 move to 1030 15th Street Northwest, Chairperson Nadeau noted that she supports this expanding agency's move so that they can continue their work in a space that fits their needs. This is a quote from Chairperson Nadeau. When discussing our request for additional full-time employees, Chairperson Nadeau stated, and I quote, "Due to the limitations in the budget, and only due to the limitations in the budget, the committee is only able to fund OGE's requested supervisory ethics investigator at this time. However, had the funds been available, I would have supported adding positions to the budget." The committee report and recommendations were passed by voice vote. The next item, retention requirements for electronic records. The Fidelity and Access to Government Communications Clarification Emergency Amendment Act of 2022, DC Act 24-355, is an emergency measure to clarify that communications created or received electronically in the course of official business are subject to existing record retention obligations. This act will be effective through June 25th, 2022. We reported on this act in the April board meeting. On April 5th, 2022, the council also passed identical language as a non-germane amendment to the Community Service Graduation Requirement Waiver Regulation Temporary Amendment Act of 2022, Bill 24-0691. The mayor signed the legislation on May 3rd, 2022, enacted with Act number A24-0395. The measure must undergo a 30-day congressional review period before it becomes law and will remain in effect for 225 days. Lastly is other legislation. The Committee of the National Uniform Law Commission is drafting a Public Meetings During Emergencies Act. The committee met remotely on April 22nd, 2022 to continue to mark up the draft in anticipation of presentation to the whole commission at its annual meeting in July. Attorney Niquelle attended this meeting. And the OOG staff will continue to monitor the legislative activity and report on it as needed. Lastly, in my report are administrative matters. First, the paralegal specialist position. The OOG paralegal specialist position that was advertised by DCHR closed on April 7th. We had 47 candidates to apply for the position, and we received and we are reviewing the resumes of the top candidates that qualified for the vacancy. We look to schedule interviews in the next 2 weeks. The next matter is office relocation. Director Cooks and I met with the Department of General Services and their architects on April 13th, 2022, and finalized the floor plan and design for BEGA's May 2023 move to 1030 15th Street Northwest. The floor plan is in Dropbox for your review. Lastly is the Parliamentary Procedure Training Portal. I met with Susan Leahy of Robert's Rules Made Simple on April 21st, 2022 regarding the training portal. We discussed the strategy for the next set of users, which are our education boards and commissions. OOG is looking to hold a series of OMA webinars for the public charter school boards of trustee members before the end of the fiscal year. And we are going to have Ms. Leahy specifically tailor a webinar for them on parliamentary procedure. This concludes the Office of Open Government's May 5th report. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Director Allen. Are there any questions for Director Allen?
I just want to give a shout out. I really enjoyed the Open Government. I thought it was really well put together. I guess my one suggestion would be to prominently feature the date on it, because once they go into the archives, it'll be easier to go back and look and see, what the dates were. And maybe it was just me, but I need new glasses, but I couldn't find it. But nice and colorful and really splashy, and of course, great content. So nice job on that.
I have to compliment Attorney Zita Orji. She redid the newsletter and created the new format. So great job for her.
Nice job. I guess my one question would be, if anybody knows when we expected to be back in person for our board meetings?
That would be up to the board and the chair for you all to decide. Our office is open and the hearing room is operable, and we've had one public body have a hybrid meeting that was partially in person and partially online that went well. So whenever you all feel comfortable, I guess that's something you all can discuss as a board. We're ready for you to come back.
Are there any current protocols in place at 441 with respect to masks or
Yes.
vaccination?
Yes, folks are wearing masks, and they have encouraged us to continue to social distance. So we would have to take that into account going in person, whether or not we would let the public in or not. Those types of considerations would come into play. And I think the public body that met did the hybrid for that reason. So it was just them meeting in person without an audience, so to speak, and just our staff who was there. So to keep
And the equipment worked okay?
Yes, the equipment worked well. So the upgrades that we've done have completely been integrated, and we are all ready to go with our new system.
Right. Is there a vaccination requirement now to get into the building?
I don't believe so. No.
We have one at the DC bar. That's why I was asking. We also use something called Return Safe, which is an app that not only confirms and verifies vaccination boosters and so forth, but also runs through a series of questions about current symptoms, if any, and exposure. And so I'm just checking that the DC government's not doing that for access to its buildings.
No, it's still free public access. Now, employees we have our requirements as far as vaccination and checking ourselves before we come in the office, but that's just restricted to employees, not to the public.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions for Director Allen? We can discuss that further when we get into executive session. Okay, next then we'll have also via WebEx, Director of the Office of Government Ethics, Ashley Cooks. Director Cooks, please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Hutcheson and members of the board. I'm Ashley Cooks, the Director of Government Ethics. I'm pleased to present this report on the activities of the Office of Government Ethics, OGE. First, update on the status of OGE operations. The information reported today regarding OGE's cases will not reflect any status changes that may occur as a result of actions taken by the board during today's meeting. First, open investigations by status. We have a grand total of 49 matters. Open undocketed matters, we have a grand total of 3. For pending state investigations by status, we have 28 matters that are closed pending collection. 4 matters stayed pending DC Superior Court case. 5 matters stayed for OAG False Claims Act case. 7 matters stayed for OIG investigation. And 1 matter stayed for U.S. District Court case for a grand total of 45 matters. For regulatory matters by status, we have 33 matters that are closed pending collection, 26 matters that are open for a grand total of 59 regulatory matters. Again, currently we have 49 open investigations and 17 matters that are stayed. The number of open preliminary and formal investigations includes 9 new matters open since the board last met. The investigative team resolved 17 investigations since the last board meeting. OGE has published the quarterly complaint report for fiscal year 2022, FY22, quarter 1. Auditor Taduba completed the quarterly complaint report for the second quarter ending March 31st, 2022, which will be published next week. Auditor Taduba also completed quarter 1 of calendar year 2021 complaint intake processing audit. Minor findings were noted and explanations have been provided. Next is training and outreach. First, professional development trainings attended by staff. Several members of the OGE staff attended an introduction and refresher training for OGE's case management system, CMTS. The course covered many updates to the system, as well as searches and reports to understand how to best use our data. General Counsel Raj attended Becoming a Mindful Leader offered by SkillPath. Auditor Taduba completed the following trainings. Number 1, Leading by Motivating, which provided an understanding of why motivating leadership strategies are important and offers practical techniques for encouraging team motivation. Number 2, being an effective manager when times are tough, which explored specific strategies for weathering difficult times, how to hold difficult conversation with employees and secure their support, and how to identify opportunities to strengthen your organization during difficult times. Number 3, providing effective internal customer service, which explored the importance of getting to know one's internal customers, identify their expectations, take actions on those expectations, and guidelines for providing internal customer service excellence. And number 4, personal power and credibility, which covered how to increase your influence at work and reach your goals by developing personal power and credibility and using them for building trust with your coworkers and organization. Next is training conducted by staff. Since the last board meeting, OGE attorneys conducted 5 ethics trainings, which included the monthly ethics training. The other trainings included a monthly hashtag training, quarterly boards and commission training that OGE will offer quarterly for those who are unable to attend their agency-specific training, board and commissions training for the Health Benefits Exchange, and a general ethics training for the Health Benefits Exchange all-hands meeting. Last week on Monday, April 25th, we hosted our monthly Ethics Council virtual brown bag session. The topic was unveiling the new OGE learning management system. Supervisory Attorney Stuart Mitchell, Program Analyst Kozik, and I provided a walkthrough of the platform before taking questions. The event was well attended. The next discussion is May 23rd and will be on nepotism and will be led by Attorney Advisor Eccles. During the month of April, 625 employees completed our online ethics training via PeopleSoft. Next is the learning management system. I'm pleased to announce that on April 25th, OGE's online learning management system, LMS, went live. The LMS will serve as the central online location for on-demand ethics trainings and training materials. District employees and public officials now have access to 23 training courses that address ethics subjects, including becoming an ethical leader, receiving gifts, developing an ethical culture, ethical decision-making, culture carriers, the role of an ethics and compliance program, as well as ethics rules-based courses such as outside employment and post-employment, conflicts of interest, financial interests and disclosures, and nepotism. The LMS can be accessed via the BEGA website by clicking on the carousel menu for BEGA's learning management system. The actual web link for the system is bega-council.lrn.com. Upon accessing the website, users are prompted to register using their official government email address. Then they are granted access to the course catalog and their training history. We have already received positive feedback about the system and look forward to continuing our efforts to notify the district government about the LMS. As of yesterday, 146 users had registered for the LMS. Next is outreach. Director Allen, IT Specialist Kayvon Bridges, and I met with the Office of the Chief Technology Officer, Octo's website development staff to discuss a refresh of the BEGA website. The website refresh will improve organization, searchability, and user-friendliness of the website, as well as the overall appearance. We received a cost estimate from Octo, which has been approved internally. The next steps include executing a memorandum of understanding and attending a kickoff meeting. On April 14th, OGE issued its bi-monthly newsletter, Ethically Speaking, which is posted on the BEGA website. Next is advisory opinions and advice. For informal advice, OGE's legal staff provided advice for approximately 43 ethics inquiries, which is one more than the 42 reported at the April board meeting. This number does not include responses we have provided to questions regarding the lobbyist and FDS e-filing systems. OGE has not drafted any advisory opinions since the last board meeting. Next are the legislative updates. First is the Pro Bono Legal Representation Expansion Amendment Act of 2021. On March 31st, 2022, the Committee on the Judiciary and Public Safety the virtual hearing on the Pro Bono Legal Representation Expansion Amendment Act of 2021, Bill 24-0298. The bill is an amendment to Section 223 of the Ethics Act, which will allow employees to provide pro bono legal representation before district and federal courts and district and federal agencies. On Tuesday, May 3rd, the bill received its first vote from the council and may receive a second vote at the end of this month. A copy of the draft amendment and the committee report were placed in a Dropbox for your review. Next is the Delinquent Debt Recovery Amendment Act of 2022. On April 6, 2022, Director Allen and I testified in support of Bill 24-706, the Board of Ethics and Government Accountability Delinquent Debt Recovery Amendment Act of 2022, which amends the Delinquent Debt Recovery Act of 2012. The amendment will allow BEGA, at its discretion, to transfer and refer delinquent debts associated with settlements and judgments for ethics violations and OMA violations to the Central Collection Unit for collection, and the funds collected on BEGA's behalf will be deposited into the Ethics Fund as well as the OMA Fund instead of the General Fund. There are no updates on this bill at this time. Next is the Comprehensive Code of Conduct update. As defined in the Ethics Act, the Code of Conduct consists of 7 different statutes and regulations with varying applicability. The Comprehensive Code of Conduct, CCC, is legislation that consolidates the district's ethics laws in one place and standardizes the ethical practices between the legislative and executive branches. The CCC was first introduced on June 12, 2015 as the Comprehensive Code of Conduct of the District of Columbia Establishment and BEGA Amendment Act of 2015, but lapsed at the end of that council period. It was later introduced in February 2017 and January 2019, but again lapsed at the end of both of those council periods. After meeting with Councilmember Nadeau's staff, OGE's legal team has begun reviewing and updating the CCC with the goal of submitting an updated version of the legislation to the council by this summer. The ultimate goal is to have the CCC introduced before the council in the fall of this year. Next, an update on OGE administrative matters. First, OGE staffing. BEGA's Human Resources Specialist vacancy closed, and the top applicants are under review by our office. We are currently working to fill our vacancies. The Chief of Staff position was posted before the April board meeting and will remain open until the end of this month. Next is the BEGA budget hearing. On April 6, 2022, Chairperson Hutcheson, Director Allen, and I testified in BEGA's budget oversight hearing before the council. OGE requested budget enhancement increases to hire a supervisor investigator, public information officer, and a legal fellow. The mayor proposed to increase BEGA's operating budget by $67,016 in local funds and $9,573 in special purposes revenue funds for fiscal year 23. Following the budget, I provided Councilmember Nadeau's office with additional information on the requested FTEs, and the supervisor investigator position has been funded. Next, an update on financial disclosure statement, FDS. The 2022 FDS filing season is now underway, and all agencies provided their list of FDS filers to the FDS team. The FDS team forwarded the list to Octo for upload into the FDS e-file system. Filers began filing on April 8th as they received the mail notices. On April 14th, the FDS team sent email notices to all public filers. And on April 29th, the team sent reminder notices to those who had not yet filed. Results to date are 1,543 filers have filed their 2022 calendar year 2021 FDS statements. We received about 142 support tickets, the majority of which stem from faulty emails which were provided to BEGA. Abstract Evolutions, our IT vendor, completed the FDS e-file system upgrades and the upgrades were moved to production on April 28th. As a cursory field test was conducted and found a cursory field test was conducted, and the upgrades were found to be functional, except for the filer/non-filer query, which provided some inaccurate information. As designed, the filer/non-filer query is to provide up-to-date information as to who has filed and who has not. Unfortunately, the query was set up based on an understanding of how information is uploaded into the system, which is different from the way that Octo does it. Program specialist COSIC met with Abstract Evolutions on May 2nd to troubleshoot the platform to see if we can get better results when we do run the next query. As a part of the 2021 enforcement, OPRS recently garnished filers who were late or did not file at all. The FDS team has been responding to waiver requests and other issues arising from the recent garnishments. Lastly, the FDS team completed the financial disclosure standard operating procedures, and it is in the last phases of the approval process. My last update is on the lobbying, registration, and reporting, LRR. Lobbyists' first quarter 2022 activity reports were due on April 18th, 2022. On March 30th, the LRR team sent notices to 450 lobbyists, reminding them of the deadline. As of April 2nd, lobbyists have filed 445 activity reports, 57 registrations, and 20 support tickets. Thank you. This concludes the Office of Government Ethics May 5th, 2022 report.
Thank you, Director Cooks. Are there any questions for Director Cooks?
Unless someone else wants to go first, since I hogged the spotlight last time.
I don't see any hands raised, so why don't you go ahead?
Just two things. First, congratulations on the learning management system. As you, of all people, know, this was one of the goals early on in BEGA's existence, because it was one of the three pillars of what BEGA was built on. The enforcement and the education side was super important, but because of the complexity and the cost, it became a bit daunting. So congratulations, Director, on bringing this finally to fruition.
Thank you.
It's going to make a huge difference and give credibility to the agency, because the one thing we never wanted to be seen as was a gotcha agency. And so we wanted to make sure that we had as much emphasis on education and training as we did on enforcement. And I think this is going to go a long way to, to supporting that mission. Let's see, the other thing I just wanted to mention was, now it's escaping me, just buzzing through on the comprehensive code of conduct. So you said, I noticed you said that you're updating a few things, the staff is updating a few things, and it strikes me that from the time that we first drafted it, it's an entirely new board now. So I'm just curious, what is your thinking as far as, having the board weigh in, having the board involved in the process before it goes to the council? Have you given it any thought? Do you have any recommendations?
Yes, so the plan is to have staff we meet weekly to discuss section by section, line by line, just like we did in 2016, 17. But we go over it section by section, and we make changes and track changes. And the plan is to have that version, as well as the previous version, submitted to the board before we submit it to the council.
Okay, good. Great.
Yeah, we definitely would want to get the board's input on it before it goes to the council.
All right, excellent. That's really all it looks like I know we have a few things in the executive session, but it looks like you guys had a really productive month. 17 cases resolved. That's great. Very good.
Thank you. Thanks to the staff.
Okay. Thanks to the staff. Thanks to also to the staff of the Office of Open Government. Are there any other questions for Ms. Cooks? Okay, I don't see that there are any. So the next item on the agenda is the public comments. The public was invited to submit comments in writing by 11 a.m. today, and no comments had been received by 11:01. So we're going to go to the next item on the agenda, which is the executive/closed session. This is an item to discuss ongoing confidential investigations pursuant to DC Official Code, Section 2-575B14, to consult with an attorney to obtain legal advice and to preserve the attorney-client privilege between an attorney and a public body, pursuant to DC Official Code, Section 2-575B4A, to discuss personnel matters, including the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, performance evaluation, compensation, discipline, demotion, removal, or resignation of government appointees, employees, or officials pursuant to DC Official Code, Section 2-575B10, to deliberate on a decision in which the Ethics Board will exercise quasi-judicial functions pursuant to DC Official Code, Section 2-575B13, and to discuss contract negotiation strategies pursuant to DC Official Code, Section 2-575B2. May I have a motion to enter into executive session?
I'll offer the motion that we enter into executive session.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded that the board enter into executive session. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposition? Okay, this motion passes unanimously. And before we do that, I did want to note for the record that board member Felice Smith joined us after we got started, as we were a couple of minutes into this opening session. So now we're going to log out of this meeting and log into executive session, and then we'll return at the conclusion of the executive session. Thank you. Okay, the time is now 1:37 p.m. and we're resuming the public part of our meeting. Only to say that there are no items that we need to report out, and so we will adjourn until the board's next meeting that takes place on June 2nd at 12 noon. Thank you all and have a good month. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.